Review. Book one is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a fellow podcaster and the chief comeback starter and host of, well, Start Your Comeback. None other than Miss Toni Thrash.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Welcome, Miss Tony, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Absolutely. I have been a certified life coach for the past 10 years. I'm divorced. I have two grown sons. I've loved to podcast. It's one of my favorite things. I'm a huge pickleball uh, player and fan. And I love to podcast and I love to write. So those are my things that I like to do.
Yes, likewise. I love podcasting. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. So let's talk about how to start your comeback when everything changes. The
Yeah.
map, yeah. So the map versus the terrain. Your life had a map, a plan, identity, or routine. Now that the terrain has changed, what is the first moment you realized that the old map was useless? And how do you cope up with the initial disorientation?
Great question. When you realize that that map no longer works, it is, I like to call it a marathon and not a sprint. It's this process of you changing, uh, number one, the way that you think about lots of things, probably every aspect of your life, correct?
Yes.
And it's a process of realizing that you're no longer that person, that identity, whether you were married or you lost your job and you've been in a company for 20 years, that has changed. And so now you have to find out who you are, but you have to go back to who you were before all of that started and remember the gifts and the talents and the strengths that you had before to actually even just process through that reality. It takes a while, but it's such a period of learning and a period of growth. So that's you just start by accepting what the reality is. And a lot of times, sometimes that involves therapy. It just involves uh, reaching out to other people who've been in that same situation, maybe a support group or something, hiring a coach, any of those things to kind of help get you back on that path.
The unchosen new normal, Miss Tony. A comeback starts not from where you were, but from where you are. How do you begin to take an honest, clear eyed inventory of this unchosen new normal without being overwhelmed by grief or anger or for what's gone?
Uh, well, I have been a sports coach. I've been a basketball coach and tennis coach for 25 years. And so a lot of what I talk about is those situations. I don't know if you've ever played basketball or not, but basketball, if you're not doing well in the game, your coach puts you on the bench. And so I relate that benching in a game to benching in life, whether you got surprised by divorce or firing or your kids have gone off to college, whatever that may be, is then you're on the bench for a period, and that allows you to see uh, the reality around you and to start to move forward. And it changes your perspective because you have to you have to do a little bit of work to get to where you want to go. I like to call that period a really shock because whether we've asked for that transition or not, whether we've asked to be put on the bench or where we someone else has put us on the bench, there's a moment of shock that we're not thinking clearly, we don't know what we're doing, we can't really make wise decisions. And so that period on the bench helps us to see who we need to bring around us to have that support and the wisdom that we're not able to see clearly yet. And so that helps change your perspective and helps you grow. And then that new identity starts to emerge and you start to remember, oh my gosh, this is who I am. This is what I've done. This is who I used to be. Because a lot of times we get caught up in that, right? And so it's a good place to be. We just don't want to stay there very long. There's nothing wrong with being on the bench. We just don't want to stay there for very long. And we don't want to let the fear or the guilt and the shame of or whatever that we're feeling override and keep us there permanently.
Hmm. Don't stop, people. Move on and
Yeah.
let it go. Beyond the primary change, Beyond the primary change, Miss Tony, there are secondary losers. The community, the daily purpose, the sense of competence. Which of these invisible losers was the hardest to name and mourn?
Wow, that's a great question. I think for me personally, I think it was losing the fear,
Mm,
um, because that's just how I'm made. I have tended to be live in fear or have a backup plan for a backup plan, but letting fear be the losing opponent every single day is something that I've been practicing that thought for probably the last 7 or 8 years, just getting up in the morning going, fear's not going to win today. It's going to lose because I'm not going to let it overtake me and keep me stagnant and keep me afraid of doing, what I want to do and what I feel like I'm supposed to do. And so fear's a fear's a big one. Like that's a tough one to let go.
mhm. Very well said, Miss Tony. In immediate aftermath, survival takes all your energy. What is the first small sign, however tiny, that you had a little energy to spare, not just for reacting, but for beginning to shape a response?
Hmm. I think, well, I don't think, I'm sorry. I know that for most people, it's the work that they do. So, and by that I mean like going to therapy, having that someone who's not like I have a group of friends, but they're gonna pretty much tell me what I want to hear, right? That most people have that, but it's
Mm,
it's that third party that starts to help you walk through and associate what it is you're walking through and helps clear that fuzziness because it's very difficult. And honestly, I'm going to just be very straightforward here. That's different for every single person because some people it takes a month, some people it takes an entire year, sometimes it may take longer than that because of the differing circumstances that have surrounded their transition, right? So it's not a cookie cutter, thing because what happens is grief and all of those things play a big factor in it. And so, but the moment that you have that awakening, that first knowledge of clear headed is the first sign that has given you hope, right? So now you have this tiny glimmer of hope that things can change and be better and you can actually get through this, make this through, make it through this, and it's just it's a put your one foot in front of the other kind of moment, because it really is, um, it's different for everyone.
Yes, definitely. It's different from each of us. So, Miss Tony, when everything external is in flux, what is the personal qualities, values, or tiny routines did you cling to as your non-negotiable anchors?
Okay, this is probably my favorite question ever. I love this question because what I have this thing that I tell all of my clients, right? The
Yes.
first thing you have to do when you are in some sort of transition is that you have to just, like, when you get up in the morning, right? I have my coffee. I sit in my chair, I have my coffee, and I'm quiet for 20 minutes. And I'm listening to what my brain is telling me. Because my brain is not always telling me, it sometimes it's not telling me the truth. And so I listen to what it's telling me so that I can get rid of the junk. And so just sitting in silence for that 20 minutes to just kind of go, oh, that's just not right. I'm not, no, that's not true. And then the process of probably journaling after that. And then, I'm a big journaler. I journal everything I'm thinking, I journal prayers. Those are some of the big things. But the other thing is physical activity. And I don't mean like going to the gym and working out for 5 hours. I'm talking about going outside and taking a 20-minute walk with no phone. You can listen to music if you want, but you're not on your phone, is what I'm saying. And that just helps clear your mind to help you think even more clearly. And those are my go-to. And they're super simple. Uh, but it takes a little bit of discipline, and especially I get this all the time. Well, I'm not a journaler. I'm not a journaler. Well, you don't have to be. You can just journal 1 to 2 lines, and that's journaling. Nobody's asking you to write a book. Just journal a couple of lines, go for a walk, just understand what's going on in your head, because that is going to help make you more grounded, more level, more steady, so that when a decision, because you have a big transition, you've got a lot of other little ones that are attached to it. And it just helps make the decision making process a little bit clearer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. The more you're journaling, it will clear your mind. People also start journaling. So, Miss Tony, the pressure to figure it all out is paralyzing. What does it
Mhm.
look like to replace the big, scary question, what's my new life? With a series of low stakes micro experiments to test what might work or bring joy now?
And that's the age old question, isn't it? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that um, you have to go, you have to walk through that process. Your new life it's not just going to appear out of thin air, right? It's not like a genie in a bottle. You're not just going to wish it into existence. It's going to take you to work to get to where you want to be. And you may actually get there and not even realize you're there, because maybe you're still stuck a little bit in the past. But that one step at a time, to keep moving forward, to keep doing what you're doing, to keep moving in the direction that you want to go, because you can't make all the changes at one time. It starts with one simple change. Like, you can't you can't just go decide to make a whole bunch of life-changing decisions all at one time, because probably you're not thinking clearly. So you just start small, and maybe small is, uh, if you, let's just say you retire, maybe you need to rethink your budget. Maybe you need to join a class. because you want to learn to make pottery or needlepoint, or you want to learn to play golf or whatever. It just is one small decision. And then you try that for 3 or 4 months to see, do I really enjoy this? Is this something that I can see myself doing long term? And if it's not, then we kind of go back to the drawing board and we try something else, because eventually you're going to hit what it is, those changes. And once you make the change that sticks, then the next change is a little bit easier um, to make and a little bit more easier to recognize. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, Miss Tony. Makes sense. So let's talk about the 1 hour plan. In a deep uncertainty, planning for a year is impossible. What's the power of making a plan for just next 2 hour or the next day? How does shortening the planning horizon reduce anxiety and create actionable steps?
That's a great question, because a lot of people, I see this all the time with New Year's resolutions, and I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions because um, big, huge goals like that, um, I get overwhelmed, and a lot of other people get overwhelmed. And so what you do is maybe, man, when you're going through a transition as heavy as divorce or the loss of a spouse or retirement, those transitions, right? Um, Goodness, you just have to break it down into small chunks. Like you can, I still do this to this day. I plan out my week, and I know what I'm going to do on Monday, and I know what I'm going to do all through the week. And I allow for adjustments to be made. And at the end of the week, I have one overarching goal for the week, but that overarching goal for the week is part of an overarching goal for the month, which is also an overarching part of a goal that I set for 90 days, right? I try not to do too much past 90 days. And so it's just what am I going to do today to get to this big goal? And if it's sending an email, or if it's going on a trip by yourself, or it's as a newly divorced uh, person going to a movie and dinner by yourself, those are big goals and they're hard to do. And so breaking them down into smaller pieces that are attainable, so that you have some sense of accomplishment, and that you don't just come home and just beat yourself to death with all the negative thoughts. Well, I didn't get that finished. I'm not ever going to get this goal. No, no, it's simple. What can you do today that will help you reach the goal at the end of the week? What is it? And if you look at it and you take it like that, then you have this sense of accomplishment, because then that kind of is like a snowball, right? The more you do it, the easier it gets and the bigger it gets, right? So it snowballs into, and before long, your 90-day goal is reached, and you weren't stressed out about it because you broke it down into chunks. And I just think that if you focus in on those smaller pieces, you're going to be so much better than trying to be overwhelmed, trying to do a whole year goal and it not, um, and it's not going very well. It's just simpler for that.
So, Miss Tony, as a podcast host, what are your short term and long term goals?
My short-term, long-term goals. That's great. Um, Great question. Well, my new book is the only book I've written, is coming out sometime in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
It's editing now, so that's been a long-term goal. Um, I'm including more guests. I hope to have more guests on. I've been pretty much a solo podcaster for the first 2 years, just a couple of guests here and there, but I'm leaning toward moving in that direction, to have more experts come in and talk about the transitions and the pieces that I love to talk about come in. Yeah, that's it. Just I've written, I have a book and a workbook to go with it, and so those are my right now. That's my long term goal, is to get that taken care of, and then just to continue to grow my audience.
Hmm. Well, good luck to your goals, Miss Tony, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be a podcast host like us?
Don't be afraid, because I was in your shoes once, and I had a friend said, you have a lot you need to share, so let's do this. And there's lots of people out there who can help you walk that path to being a podcast host or writing a book or whatever it is your dream is. There's lots of people out there. So don't put it on the shelf, keep it in front of you, and then just take that small step every day to get to where you want to be.
Well, baby steps, people, baby steps, and thank you for that empowering advice, Miss Tony. And so, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yes, my probably the biggest book that I read during my transition, and that is a book by Max Lucado, who's a Christian author, and the title of the book is "You'll Get Through This," and it just offers so much encouragement and so much practical steps that you'll find it very encouraging, and it will give you a sense, it will give you hope to know that number one, you're not alone and that you can get through this.
Indeed, thank you for that recommended book, Miss Tony. So, the comeback mindset versus the final destination. A comeback suggests a return, but you're likely becoming someone new. How do you frame these as a building next chapter rather than just recovering the old done? What is exciting difference?
Oh, great question. Um, your comeback is your comeback is from a place of major loss or transition or grief of some kind that you didn't think you could ever live outside of that. And so when you start your comeback, when you start that process and that journey, it opens you up to things that you never thought you would do again. Maybe you did before years ago, but what I have found personally, and with all of my clients, is that when you start that comeback journey, you're not looking to forget the past, because it's part of who you are and part of why you are where you are. But it's this new journey uh, to something greater than yourself, and we're not going back to who we were, and that's there's so much mental and emotional tied to that, that would be like a whole other podcast that we would have to talk about, just the emotional and the and that. But you're still who you are. That doesn't change. I'm still Tony, you're still Daniel, you're still whoever you are. But it's the fact that you have changed, you've changed your, what's the word? You've changed your perspective, you've changed your goals, you've changed your identity, because that identity that you had is no longer there. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Makes sense. The whole new you.
The
Hmm.
whole new you.
Yes, the only you. If you had to give someone three essential tools for starting their own comeback, one practical, one mindset, one relational, what would they be?
Okay. The first one would be go to counseling, period. Like you, that is like that non-negotiable. You go to counseling. Relational. Find uh, find a friend, a group, a small group of women, men, uh, business. I don't know. I have a small group of women. We've been meeting together for, gosh, I mean, forever. There's six of us, and they know everything. Like they know the ins and outs of my divorce. They know the ins and outs of my children. And so relationally, you have to learn to trust someone with what the world doesn't need to know. And then the last thing I would say is not everyone that you know needs to know the details of your story, right? So you create an elevator speech of 2 to 3 sentences that is just a general overview so that you don't have to go through the details every time someone says, "Hey, how are you doing?" So those three things: go to therapy, 100% certain. Like that is number one. Find someone that you can trust to talk to, and have them be able to listen. And maybe it's more than one, maybe it is just one. And then the third one, just develop that elevator speech so that you're not putting yourself in a position to have to relive it over and over and over again. You just, it's small and sweet and short, and it covers what you need for what they are asking.
Best Tony, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season as well, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101. Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101, our fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. So please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss
Thank you.
Tony, looking back to the moment everything changed, what is the one sentence of reassurance or guidance you wish you could have heard then, knowing that you know about the path of the comeback?
Hmm. That I can do this. Like I can make this, I can make it through this and be okay. Be more than okay. I wish that I had, I wish you could, see ahead enough to know that. You don't think you're going to be okay. I wish I had known it, and I wish I could have believed it.
Miss Tony Thrash, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. We salute your bravery for facing your you. So, can you please invite the listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing
Sure.
right now?
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Toni Thrash. You can find me on my website at tonythrash.com. Uh, the podcast, Start Your Comeback, wherever you listen to podcasts. And finally, um, my book will be out. I don't have a release date yet, but I'm hoping it's April, and you'll be able to find that on Amazon. And
Yes.
it's also titled Start Your Comeback, so it's all the same. So
Yes, please do come over, Miss Tony, and let's talk about it on Book 101. Okay, once you publish,
thank you.
please.
God bless you. I appreciate you so much.
No worries at all. Let's promote to all my podcasts. Let's empower fellow podcasters. Let's support each other. Okay, people, let's support Miss Tony Thrash because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering episodes of the podcast, and of course, more and more empowering upcoming books will rise. So, Miss Tony, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it so much.
Likewise. Welcome, people. See you